Morning. It's Wednesday, October 6th. And this morning I'm going to talk about something that I don't think most of you have heard of. It's called the Pandora Papers. And I'm sure most of you know the Greek myth of the Pandora box. When a young woman named Pandora opened the box and released bad things upon the world. I think you'll see that the Pandora Papers have a similar theme. These papers were released on Sunday by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. These papers contained an expose of the financial secrets and offshore dealings of dozens of heads of states, public officials, and politicians from 91 countries and territories. And more than 600 journalists from 150 outlets participated in the collection of these documents. They reviewed nearly 12 million confidential files. This is not the first time that a set of Pandora Papers has been released. There was another set released in 2016. These are not ordinary run-of-the-mill documents. These Pandora Papers reveal the unusual finances and secret wealth which have infiltrated, that's a great word, infiltrated global politics. Some of the people mentioned in these papers are major political leaders in developing or impoverished countries, such as Jordan and Kenya. Many of the power players who could help bring an end to the offshore system of hiding money could put an end to it, but instead they benefit from it. They stash assets in hidden companies and trusts while their governments do little to slow a global stream of illicit money that enriches criminals and keeps the nations poor. Now, that's a statement that was made in the introduction of the series of the Pandora Papers. And it's being published in the Washington Post in the United States and by the BBC and the Guardian in the UK. Now, according to the reports, countries like Cyprus and the British Virgin Islands allow for these activities to take place, because what is being done with the money that is being stashed on those islands is not illegal under the law of those islands. And so that's what produces this major conundrum. You're doing activities in a country that allows them, but they would not be allowed on your home turf. And many of the people mentioned in these articles, like the British ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair, have hidden money in these foreign countries. What Blair did was avoid £312,000, which is equivalent to over $400,000 in U.S. money, in something called the stamp duty, which is a tax on property purchases. He bought a townhouse in London, and that townhouse now holds his wife's law firm. But they bought the house in 2017, not by buying the house itself, but buying the offshore firm that owned the property. So the house came with the firm, but it was not the property. So you see, the property was put up for sale, but they avoided the whole thing by buying the company. And they did that by setting up a company in the UK to purchase the offshore firm. Now, doing all of this was legal, perfectly legal, but it allowed them to avoid paying a stamp duty, which according to the BBC is required when you buy property. But the tax is not charged when a company owning a property is acquired. So that would be like somebody who has a company, and one of the things that the company owns is your house, and you buy the company and you get the house and you don't have to pay these taxes. So I don't know that that's a terrible thing to do, but the Prime Minister, the ex-Prime Minister of England, did exactly that. And to me, you're caught in this dilemma. He's avoiding his taxes, which he should have paid, but he's just being a smart businessman. So can we fault him for that? No. But I am sure that they don't want people to know he did this. That's the crime. The crime is holding back the fact that these individuals, like Tony Black, are engaging in practices that are perfectly legal, but I will call them shady if they were presented to the voting public. The voting public would not be happy that Tony Blair got away with $500,000, almost $500,000 in income taxes that he was supposed to pay. So it's not unusual for a commercial office building to be held by a corporate entity, and when you buy the entity, you get the building. And that makes perfectly good sense to me, except that when you are a public figure, an elected public figure, and you do that, and you avoid taxes and everything, that is not kosher. And then you got the ex-Czech Prime Minister, Andrej Babis, who did something similar to that. Well, not quite similar. He moved $22 million to offshore companies to purchase an estate on the French Riviera in 2009 before he entered politics. Now, he's worth about $3.4 billion, this ex-Czech Prime Minister. And now, in his election campaign back in 2017, he told people he was going to crack down on tax avoidance. But he himself avoided taxes. He never told anybody about his chateau property. And he was supposed to take some action on paying some kind of duty on the property. But he decided not to do that until the elections were over, because he didn't want this information out in the public, because that might cloud them into voting for his opponent. But now they are telling people about this, and he claims they're trying to slander him. So you see, when you look at these two examples, you can see what else is going on in the world. And these are not the things that the ordinary run-of-the-mill citizen can come up with. And it took this group of 600 or so reporters to gather this information. And these two are only a couple of examples that exist within these papers. So I guess if you want to find the whole story out, you have to read the Washington Post. But in any event, I find it interesting that we had 600 people out there looking for dirt on some people in high places. And this information should be publicized. And it should shed a light on some of the activities that the very wealthy and the very powerful have at their disposal. So I leave you with that this morning, and have a wonderful day. Bye.